Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Thank you for joining this video, our Wednesday weekly video. And what I want to do today is bring in the topic of music and how powerful music is for people who are living with a cognitive change and living through cognitive change. People with dementia, people with a neurological disorder like Parkinson's disease. Music can play an integral part of the care and support and intervention. More or less everybody has some memories around particular pieces of music, some positive, some not so positive. So I want to talk to you about how music can impact on people's journeys. So let's start with turn the clock way back to around 2001, 2002 back in the UK. I used to work with some homes, a group of homes called Highfield Cares, where that was my first dementia doctor position. And one of the things I created was something called MaRTiS. Now, MaRTiS stands for Music and Reminiscence Therapy, Incorporating Storytelling. So let me tell you how that works. If you're in a group setting, you would usually get together 6 people who are living with dementia. One of those people will be in charge of music. So just imagine a conversation between 6 people who are living with dementia. Maybe in a nursing home, maybe in a residential home, memory care, maybe living at home. But a conversation eventually dries up because people lose their thought, they lose their train of thought, they lose where they are in that story. So what MaRTiS does is encourages people to focus, to concentrate, to engage, to interact, and therefore it encourages communication. So if there are a group of 6 people, and this is how it works. The facilitator, which could be husband, wife, son, daughter, care manager, activities coordinator, whoever it is that's involved in supporting that activity, the facilitator will look at all 6 people's life stories and they will choose a subject, a topic to discuss. Once that topic has been chosen, then the facilitator will start the conversation with the 6 people. And they will get that conversation flowing, they will encourage people to interact, to engage. Some people may struggle with that, some people may need a little bit more encouragement than others. But when that conversation dries up, one of the 6 people who is going to be in charge of the music will play a piece of music. Music that is familiar to the 6 people that has already been pre-selected by the facilitator. The hope, the aim, the objective is for that piece of music to trigger a memory so the conversation can continue or a new conversation can begin. And that's how MaRTiS has been created, for that sole purpose of creating a memory relating to that piece of music. So some people might remember dancing, they might remember the first time they met somebody, they might remember the first time they had a record or a CD or whatever mode of music we use today. And so the memory will be triggered. Now here's the clever bit. Memories triggered are not always positive. Some can be negative. Some can lead people into a negative state. That's okay, because that means that we're able to talk to that person about that negative situation, that negative memory. And if it needs to be on a one-to-one, then it can be on a one-to-one afterwards, after the kind of activity has happened and completed. So the whole point of MaRTiS is play music, trigger memories, communicate, and tell stories. Storytelling is wonderful, and everybody listens and everybody gets involved. And it may take a little while for this group of people to start getting involved with each other, feel safe with each other, but that's okay. So music, we know that music is a very, very powerful vehicle for communicating with people who are living with a dementia type illness or disease. So music we use a lot. I want to give you a couple of examples of where MaRTiS has been very, very powerful. There was a group of 6 people, and one of the people that would come to the MaRTiS session that I was facilitating was maybe a lady in her 80s, and she would come into the room in a wheelchair. The care staff would bring her into the group in a wheelchair. She would be transferred into a chair, and she would sit back and she would just close her eyes. Now, these sessions usually run for 6 weeks. So at around about week 3, I thought that this lady was not engaging, not understanding, not benefiting from it. So I was thinking that next time we don't include this lady, we think somebody else might be a more suitable person to join that group. But towards the end of this session, we started to talk about Scotland. Somebody mentioned Loch Ness. And so we started to talk about what is actually in the loch. This lady, who we shall call Betty, leaned forward, opened her eyes, and in this really nice, softly spoken Scottish accent said, "Salmon." And then she leaned back and closed her eyes again. So a lesson for me was always assume that people understand everything that is happening. Always assume that whatever the conversation is, whatever the topic, the individual understands and must be involved and must be drawn into the conversations in whatever way possible. So that was a lesson for me about not making a judgment, not assuming that this person doesn't have that capability or that ability. So always bear that in mind, folks. Think about that. Now, if we've touched on a negative subject and the individual is going down this negative road, this negative route, and they might clam up, they might just lean back and not get involved anymore and start showing some signs of ill-being, that needs to be something that on a one-to-one we engage with that person about. So we might have to do some seeking out, we might have to do some discussion. Doesn't matter who it is, just let that person speak if they want to speak. If they want to express themselves, if they want to talk about something, let them talk. Because there's some anxiety there, there's some fear, there's some past negative experience. So let the people talk, let them express themselves. Some people will do this in a group setting, other people won't. They will only talk to somebody who they trust and who they know very well. But music is a very, very powerful tool and a very powerful mode of communication. MaRTiS doesn't have to be used with a group of 6. So if I'm talking to people who live at home, so there's husband and wife, for example, then husband and wife can use the same process. So if wife has a form of dementia and her communication skills are impacted upon, we've talked about the Broca's and the Wernicke's area of communication in the past. So if those parts of the brain are damaged and communication becomes challenging, music is the way to go. I used to have a patient who lost the ability to verbalize with speech. Comprehension was okay, but expression wasn't there. However, this lady used to be an opera singer. And so if you focused on operatic music and played operatic music, she would sing along to it. And I've used song and music in a therapy setting so that people can express themselves through song if that's necessary. So if the ability to verbalize through speech is no longer possible, the music centers in the brain are somewhere else. As far as I'm aware, we're not too sure where they are in the brain. If it's anything like other memory, it's fluid, so it could be all over the place. And that's one of the reasons why music can be more powerful than the verbal communication, talking and things like that. So that's MaRTiS. That's how it works. And if anybody wants to talk more about it and ask more questions about it, please let me know. And I think Lynn may have some questions to ask. Is there anything there? Oh, hang on. Before you do that, Lynn,
Yeah.
What about you? What was the first piece of music you ever remember?
That would be Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, I think.
Okay, how old were you then?
About 4. So about 1975, that would be.
Okay.
And if anybody knows that song, which I'm sure you do, it's a very raucous, rock and roll Led Zeppelin song, and that's probably why it sticks in my memory. But yeah, that one.
Yeah, and I remember we were discussing this a few days ago because Father Christmas brought Lynn a new record player, a proper record player where you can play proper records, vinyl, and listen to it in the same ways we used to listen to it when we were younger. And so I remember as a kid being bought a little record player, and my first record that came with it was, I'm not too sure of the title of it, but it was by Dolly Parton, and it's Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, which everybody knows, or more
Maybe not
likely,
her version.
Everybody knows. Yeah. So that's my memory, and takes me back to my childhood. And we could, so those two topics, those two songs there could trigger some kind of debate, trigger some kind of discussion. Many people know Elvis Presley, the Beatles. I mean, they're two big modes of music that people will always remember. And even the younger generation remember and know about Elvis and the Beatles. So whatever it is, whatever memory, it can lead to a really good positive experience. Yep, Lynn?
Also, putting on music when there's being experienced by your loved one, the right kind of music at the right time can help make things more calm, can it?
That's right. When I was working in the UK and responsible for some of the nursing homes, we would look at the dining experience. Now, the dining experience for everybody, not just people living with dementia or living in a care setting, but for everybody, the dining experience should be something that is meaningful, that is engaging. And I think we've lost some of that. But when we focus specifically on people who are living with dementia, the meal experience might be something that triggers anxiety. So I'm particularly thinking about in a care home setting where people will go to the dining room, but they're waiting for their food to be served. So they get up and walk away, and then somebody brings them back again, and this can go back and forth. And people get agitated, they get upset, they get afraid even. So what I did, and I know a colleague of mine who will be watching this video, she and I together developed a really cool dining experience for people We actually run a competition for some of the services and looked at the best dining experience and took that and kind of developed it and created it. And basically, if you think about when you go into a restaurant, you don't just sit there staring at the ceiling waiting for something to happen. Somebody comes along and asks you what you would like for a drink. Would you like a drink? Very often they will bring bread to the table. So something has to happen when people are sat waiting for their meal experience. There has to be some kind of engagement, some kind of activity. When we go in some restaurants, there's stuff for kids to do, to colour or to draw. So we always need an engaging experience, an engaging activity whilst people are waiting for their meal to be served. So that was something that we created. And also, if people are agitated in the dining room, which is in a group home, in a group setting, it's a very noisy experience. And that can trigger anxiety in itself. So if you play some nice, soft, calming, relaxing music, that will bring people's anxiety down. And I'm thinking of two pieces of music in particular. One is called Weightless, Weightless, by a group called Marconi Union. That has been shown in a laboratory setting in the UK to bring down people's anxiety by around about 35%. The second piece of music is called Cavatina, and that's the music. It's the theme song from The Deer Hunter, believe it or not. But it goes like da 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 da, and that will bring people's heartbeat down as well, and it will bring their anxiety down. So think about those things and think about how, as Lynn said, how music can be used to help calm situations down and calm people down. And it may be a useful tool to use for people who are known to experience the symptoms of sundowning. We've talked about that in a previous video. But music is a good tool to use for that as well.
And maybe in the car on the way to a doctor's appointment.
That's good as well. Yeah, thanks, Lynn. That is really poignant, because in my dental book, there's a case where a guy has to go to the dentist. He doesn't like to go to the dentist. He doesn't want to go to the dentist. But there's a situation set up for him because he's a big Queen fan. So Queen music was played in the car whilst he was going to the dentist. And when he walked into the dentist, Queen was being played in the waiting room. That was all pre-planned because that's the only way we could get this guy to the dentist. So that's a really good point, Lynn. I think it's very important because many people, when they go into a doctor's appointment or any kind of appointment, can be very anxious because they're not too sure what's going on, what's happening. So music, absolutely. Engaging with people is the main thing. I read a piece of literature yesterday that my colleague over in Southern Ireland sent over to me. So thanks for that. And it talked about if you have a dog, it can reduce the rate of dementia developing by 40% because people take the dog out for a walk and they engage and interact with other people. And that's what, in neurology, they talk about that very, very often. Engage, keep busy, stay motivated, involved with activities and things like that. So this MaRTiS, if you are able to get a group of people together and use that tool, it is a fantastic way of engaging, of interacting. So that's music and the power of it. And I'm fortunate enough to be around a number of people who are musicians or music aficionados. Lynn is very, very well read as far as music is concerned. Myself, not so much. I listen to it, I'll sing a song, I'll play a little bit on the piano, but Lynn knows a lot about music, and we go away to see bands playing, which is a wonderful experience as well. You know, getting people out and about to go and see a band. We did this a few months ago with one of my patients. We went off to see Chicago in Phoenix, and for her it was a wonderful experience. It was amazing, and she still remembers it. And when was it, Lynn? It must have been in summer sometime.
It was in May.
And she still talks about it today. When I visit her, she still talks about that experience. So very, very powerful. So thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel. The good news here is that we have 952 subscribers to this channel right now. So what I want you to do is share it with everybody in your circle. Share it with friends, relatives, colleagues, families, any care homes that you know. Just share it with everybody, because every video that we post every week is educational and can be very, very useful for everyone. So thank you for joining us. What I want to say is, Lynn?
Dump the soda.
And listen to the music. Brilliant. Have a fantastic, wonderful new year, and I will see you in 2024.